Hey, this is Richard with a report on Irish Rail's service between Dublin and Limerick. This train route is a useful one for visitors to Ireland as it provides a convenient, inexpensive way to get from Dublin to Limerick, Ireland's third most populous city and a gateway to the west coast and popular natural wonders like the Cliffs of Moher and the Burren. It's also close to some of Ireland's top hotels, like Adair Manor and Dromoland Castle. A lot of people rent a car to travel between Dublin and Western Ireland, but there is a cost to that and a not insignificant safety risk, as people in Ireland drive on the left side of the road, and many of the country roads are narrow and winding. The train, on the other hand, is cheap and safe, and you can admire the views of the countryside without worrying about getting in an accident. Trains leave from Dublin's Heuston station to Limerick every hour from 6 in the morning to 7 at night. Most of the trains on this route require a change at Limerick Junction, a small station about 30 minutes outside of Limerick City. The transfer doesn't add much time to the trip, but it's a bit of an inconvenience to have to drag your luggage onto a second train. There are a few direct trains from Dublin to Limerick that do not require a change at Limerick Junction. The return from Limerick to Dublin is similar, with trains leaving every hour up until 7. I would recommend you look for direct trains from Dublin to Limerick, but don't worry if you can't find one at the right time. The transfer at Limerick Junction is easy. Tickets cost 15 to 25 euros for each leg of the trip. The more expensive tickets allow you to cancel your reservation up to 60 minutes in advance of your trip without a penalty. There are no classes of service on the train from Dublin to Limerick. My wife and I purchased round-trip tickets a few weeks in advance of our trip. The price was just under 30 euros per person for each round-trip ticket. Seat selection is a little tricky for two people because most of the seats are set up in sections of 4, with 2 seats facing each other across a small table. So if the train is full, you have to decide if you'd rather sit next to your traveling companion or across from them. If it's not full, then you might be able to find seats with a little more privacy. Our outbound train left Dublin's Heuston station at 11:35, with a scheduled arrival in Limerick of 1:38 in the afternoon, for just over 2 hours travel time. Dublin Heuston is the city's main train station. It's modest in size, with only a handful of platforms, not nearly as grand as some of the stations in other European capitals. It has places where you can get snacks and coffee, which is useful because there is no snack service on the train. We got to the station with only minutes to spare and hurried on to Car C. The luggage rack at the front of the car was full, so I hoisted our 2 large suitcases up onto the overhead rack, which had just enough clearance to fit them. We then found our seats. Each row has an electronic display that shows the names of the passengers who reserve the seats, a nice feature that helps ensure you wind up in the right place. We were happy to see that there was no one else in our little section of 4. Something to bear in mind. If the electronic display has no names on it, then that means that no one has reserved those seats. So if you want to move to a different seat, make sure to check and see that there are no names on the display corresponding to those seats. If you don't check, then it's possible someone boarding at one of the stops between Dublin and Limerick has reserved those seats, and you'll have to move when they arrive. I was impressed with the train. It looked nice and new. The seats were covered with a kind of imitation leather material and were reasonably comfortable. There's a USB port at each seat. The free Wi-Fi worked well. Even though our car was only half full, it was quite noisy with conversation. I would recommend bringing noise-canceling headphones along. They can be a sanity saver in settings like this. As I mentioned earlier, there was no food or beverage service on this train. We brought along our own snacks and drinks, and I recommend you do the same. The bathroom located at the end of the car was pretty grim. If you have to go, you have to go, but you might consider holding out until you reach the train station. The route from Dublin to Limerick takes you through the Midlands of Ireland, past lots of green fields bordered by stone walls, along with the occasional ruin. We made several brief stops along the way, including one at Port Leisha, the most populous town in the Midlands. Hardly anyone got on or off the train at these stops. After 2 hours, we closed in on Limerick Colbert and arrived on time. The station there is small and busy, but there was no line for taxis. We were headed to Dromoland Castle, a hotel about 25 minutes northwest of Limerick. The taxi ride there cost a whopping €70. Our return trip was quite different, as we were unable to get a direct train to Dublin at the time we wanted. Instead, we booked an 11:50 departure from Limerick Colbert that got into Limerick Junction 30 minutes later at 12:20. We then were supposed to change trains for the trip to Dublin, with an arrival there of 2 p.m. So just like the outbound, a little over 2 hours travel time. The train we took from Limerick Colbert to Limerick Junction was essentially a shuttle. All it does is go back and forth between the two stations. There are no assigned seats on it. You just wheel your luggage up to any one of the 4 cars, hop on, and find some empty seats. The car we got on was about half to 3/4 full. There are lots of 2-seaters that don't face anyone. Once again, the train left on time. The journey was unremarkable, save for a group of very loud Irish school children. Limerick Junction is an outdoor platform with 2 tracks. You get off the shuttle train and wait for the train to Dublin that comes in on the other track. We waited there about 10 minutes, and then our train showed up. This train was not as nice as the one we took from Dublin. The seats were fabric with an unfortunate color scheme, and the windows were dirty. In addition, it was much more crowded than the one we took out of Dublin. Almost every seat was taken. Our seats were down at the far end of the car, and the bathroom closest to us was out of commission. When I got to my seat, there was a woman sitting in it. No problem there, as I could simply point to the electronic display to show that our names were on it. The rest of the trip was largely uneventful. We were on the same side as the trip out, so we basically watched the same scenery in reverse, which brings me to a suggestion. Consider booking opposite sides of the train for the 2 trips so that you can experience some different scenery each way. Again, there was no food or drink on this car. There is a first-class upgrade available on this route, but we didn't take advantage of it because it was such a short trip. The one good thing about switching trains at Limerick Junction is that it breaks up the journey a little bit. It was only about 90 minutes before we pulled into Houston Station. We used the bathrooms there and then went out to the taxi stand in front of the station, which did not have a line. In summary, I mostly enjoyed the train trip between Dublin and Limerick. It offers reasonable prices, lots of times to choose from, and some nice scenery. It frees you from having to worry about driving a car in a foreign country. Also, our taxi drives were among some of our best memories of our trip to Ireland. The taxi drivers we had were friendly and informative. We really enjoyed talking with them. On the downside, the trains have no snack service. The luggage rack by the door is small and fills up quickly. There are no quiet cars like they have in Italy, and you'll likely have to change trains at Limerick Junction. Hope this helps. Thanks for watching.